Hey y'all, Father Jim Haney from St. Paul's in the Plains and Texas Tech, Canterbury. I was coming around this curve and I saw an elk crossing sign right here, and lo and behold, there were a bunch of elk. Well, they're gone now. By the time I got the tripod set up, they decided to head up the mountain. But it was kind of wild to see an elk crossing sign and some elk actually there right by the sign. It was kind of cool. Now, if I really wanted to see elk, I guess I could wait around for a long time, or I could perhaps go to a wildlife refuge. I used to go to the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in Oklahoma, and there were elk and bison there. That was kind of cool. They were in a more contained area. I've seen elk in zoos. They're really easy to see because it's an even smaller space. But here, there's lots of places, lots of room for the elk to roam, and so by the time I showed up here, got the camera out, or got the phone out and the tripod, the elk were gone. Such is life. In our tradition, one of the things that we believe about the sacraments, the classic definition of sacraments is that they are outward and visible signs of inward and spiritual grace. But there's a second part of that classic definition. They are also a sure and certain means by which we receive that grace. Now, when I celebrate Holy Communion, it's not that I'm a priest and I've got the power, the magic hands that can zap the bread and make Jesus come down against his will and become part of the bread. No, what happens though is that we trust God's promises, that when we celebrate Holy Communion together as the body of Christ, that Christ will show up, not only in our midst, but also in the sacrament of Holy Communion. He promises, this is my body, this is my blood. Whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do this in remembrance of me, and I will be there. And so we trust those promises. It's not about magic, but it's about a way of trying to find God in a certain place at a certain time. At Tech, we have professors that keep office hours. There are lots of places on campus you could catch Professor X. I'm not talking about X-Men, but just a random professor. You could catch Professor Y in lots of places on campus, but if you really want to make sure to catch Professor Y, you need to show up during office hours, and Professor Y promises to be there. It's the same with the sacraments. It's not magic that God shows up in the sacraments, but God promises to be there, and we accept those promises at face value and trust that he'll be there. God, of course, also shows up in millions, billions, trillions, zillions of other ways, but in the sacraments, in Holy Communion and Holy Baptism and the other sacraments, we trust God's promise that he is there for his people in the ritual acts, the sharing of the bread and wine in communion, the sharing of water in Holy Baptism. We trust God's promises to show up at those times in those ways. And so from the side of the road here in the New Mexico mountains, I'll leave you with that thought. God bless. Have a wonderful day.